Hello, I'm Victoria Blunt. Welcome back to the Green Room. I created this space to connect with fellow creatives during lockdown and find out all about their route through the industry and how they navigated difficult times. Today we have some brilliant advice, some very funny stories, and a few slight technical issues.
I can't hear you. Oh no. Or maybe it's me.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Got you.
Yeah, good.
My guest today is Emily Berrington. Emily is a terrific actor. She's known for her leading role in Channel 4's Humans, Season 9 of the hit show 24, and the Inbetweeners 2 movie, among many others. I actually understudied Emily on the West End, and she has always been a source of insightful advice and really great stories. I hope you enjoy this chat.
So nice to see you.
How have you been, first of all?
But yeah, not bad. It's been such a kind of a bizarre couple of years for me because I was on maternity leave, and then the week I called my agent last February when my baby was 8 months old, and I said, right, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. And they were like, great, there's loads of stuff coming in. And then the next week everything closed. so I had a kind of so it wasn't like it wasn't a hard cut for me into lockdown. It was very much like, oh, just more of what I was already doing, but I just thought that would be finished by now. In terms of work, it was the first time since I graduated where I truly switched off from thinking about what's coming up next. And even on maternity leave, I was thinking about that stuff because other people were working and there were projects coming through, and my agent would say, absolutely no pressure, but this project exists if you want to go up for it. And I was having to decide whether or not it was the right time to do that. Whereas in lockdown 1, when there was just nothing happening, it was like a proper breath of, peace for a moment. A breath of peace. Strange phrase to use. Obviously, it was terrifying if I thought too hard about what was going on with our industry on a bigger scale. But in a very short-term day-to-day thing, just honestly being able to go, it's okay that nothing's going on, it's not supposed to be going on, was quite relaxing. I felt much more nervous about the virus, I think, weirdly, in this one, maybe because the numbers have been much higher in London, and because I have felt more required to go out into the world. I did a film in December, and towards the end of filming, I became very aware of how, I don't know, just kind of frightening the figures were becoming, and the fact that we were all being tested. We couldn't have been safer in terms of filming, but I just didn't really want to go anywhere by the last sort of week of December.
I wanted to ask you about that actually, because I was lucky enough to get a bit of a theatre thing in the summer when things started to relax a bit. I did an outdoor show, but for the first time in my life, I had stage fright, badly.
Wow.
And I think it's because I'd gone from being in a room basically on my own for long periods, and then suddenly being in front of an audience, not being able to process the people there. How was it filming after all of that?
I found it very strange to begin with because it had been so long, because I'd had maternity leave as well. I just, the first day I walked on set, you always have that feeling of being a bit of a fraud anytime a job starts, and you think, oh, they're going to regret casting me so much. And but it was so intense the first few days. I didn't know how to talk to anyone. I also hadn't auditioned for the project. It was one of the first things I've been sort of straight offered, and that comes with its own kind of fear factor of they haven't tested you, so you have to kind of prove yourself when you arrive. And it took me, I suppose because it was a very intensive shoot, by the end of the 4th day, I think I was in the headspace of it. But it took a bit of time. I just felt like I was wearing someone else's kind of body for the first week.
It's made me think a lot about graduates as well, coming out, who've not been in a room with people for a long time, and the stakes are going to feel pretty high when jobs do start emerging, because they're so few and far between.
I had that feeling very much as a graduate anyway, of how important every opportunity felt, because it very much felt like this is my one chance to prove myself to this casting director, and then they're going to write me off. What's wonderful is I've realized that that's not true. And there were a number of casting directors in the early days that I truly sort of bombed with and did terrible auditions for. And they even told my agent, you know, she did not do well. And I would leave them thinking, wow, I guess I've got to impress some other casting directors because I'll never see that one again. And then you realize down the line that they forget, and they get you in for something else, and you get a kind of second chance and a third chance and so on. Or they see you in something eventually and realize that your audition was just a one-off. And so I try to take that forward. And it's the same with getting a job. My partner's also an actor, and we're quite careful not to over celebrate when we do get a job, because at the times in our lives where we've really celebrated getting a job, when we don't get them, it feels much worse.
Right.
Because it feels like we're telling a story of our life is going to change with this amazing new job. And genuinely, none of the jobs that we've ever done have individually changed our lives at all. Even ones that have felt like absolutely enormous deal breaker champagne openers. You know, the job finishes and we're kind of like, oh, I'm back to auditioning for the same kind of stuff as before. And when I look back at my career, I can see each job has played its little part. But if I hadn't got that one, then, you know, a different one would have got me somewhere different. And very rarely would it truly change your, you know, unless you literally get cast as Harry Potter in the Harry Potter franchise, which is not coming around for any of us anytime soon. Keeping it all at a more medium place so that it has helped the lows be less low. Yeah, as I say, very few things are going to change your life forever. What they might be is a really good experience and an amazing creative opportunity, or like a chance to make a bit of money or whatever. But it's very rarely, if I mess this up, then I'm denying myself a whole different life.
Well, I think we could probably just leave the interview there, because that's the best piece of advice.
No, that's good.
So okay, so I'll go through like a little bit of your background, because it's so interesting. When did you first get into acting? Was that a thing you were doing when you were younger, or?
Yeah, so I did drama at school and really enjoyed it, and I was in a sort of local Amdram company that I loved, but I saw it very much as a hobby. I just didn't really know how people became a professional actor, and so I went to university, but I deliberately chose one in London because it was much cheaper to go to university then. So I could go to London, and I studied geography, but I chose a university that I knew would also mean I was close to lots of theatres and that had a good drama society and things, so I could keep that going as like a fun thing. Mm-hmm. And then it was only really there that I started meeting other people who were saying, oh, I think I might apply to drama school after I finish university, again, because it was cheap to go then, cheaper. And that sort of flicked a switch on in my head of, oh, okay, if I do want to consider this as a career, drama school is one way. If you don't know anything else about actors and you don't have any kind of contacts or whatever really, then that's a way in. I tried to get a job after university that I was also something I really wanted to do, so in case drama school didn't work out or whatever. So I went to work for the Labour Party, and then when I was there, I did my drama school auditions.
How long were you working for the Labour Party for?
It was just over a year. So I always think of it as this huge bit of my life because it was so defining in a way. It was my first graduate job. You know, I'd done absolutely loads of waitressing and working in bars, but it was my first kind of different type of job. First of all, working in Barking with Margaret Hodge, and then in the House of Commons with Siobhan McDonough. And I just absolutely loved it. I loved so much about it. The kind of atmosphere of the building and everything was just amazing. And seeing people that you don't really think exist in real life when you walk past a kind of politician that you've seen on the news since you were 5, and you think, oh my God, you're real and you're eating lunch.
Is Ed Miliband off the telly?
Exactly. So I did keep politics as part of my life afterwards. I did quite a lot with Ed Miliband actually on his campaign trail. Obviously I nailed that. Sorry, Ed.
Those political years just seem almost like innocent now compared to sort of where we are now, like a different era.
I mean, when I was in the House of Parliament, it was when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. And again, it's like, if you could have told me what the next 10 years would have been like, and maybe that would have compelled me to stay, but probably would have compelled me to leave even more. You know, I've always been someone that's really like, it's our job to stay engaged, and you have to stay engaged with what's going on in the world. You know, you can't be apathetic. You can't be one of those people that says, oh, I just don't watch the news. You know, it affects every single bit of our life. But actually, this past year has taught me that you have to allow yourself to switch off when you need to. You can't just ingest the news cycle. I listened to a really good podcast the other day of it was the podcast How to Fail, and they had Alain de Botton on. So it was quite an old episode, but I hadn't listened to it before, and he said something brilliant about, you know, balancing what you need to know, because then you can take action, whether it's like knowing the latest COVID rules or knowing some injustice that's going on in the country that you want to be part of fighting, and then working out what you don't need to know because you kind of already know it and there's nothing you can do about it. So just going through it again and again you don't have to do that.
So going from the Labour Party and then heading to drama school, you went to Guildhall. Did you know as soon as you walked in, this is the right place for me?
Well, I knew in the audition, I thought, this is definitely where I want to go. I do have to caveat it by saying it was also the only place I got into, but I'd like to think I would still have gone. I had a really great time, and well, first of all, from a position of privilege, you know, I was certainly a category of person who drama schools were geared to suit, particularly back then. You know, they have made huge strides since then, but as a kind of white middle class person with a degree, so many of my year were white middle class blonde women with degrees, and we were always like, why do people get our names confused? And now I look back and think, because we were all the same. And but I had a really great time. I learned so much. I went in thinking that there was one type of actor that I was sort of destined to be, and actually the stuff I loved the most were the things that I found the most uncomfortable to begin with. All the kind of wild free movement elements of the course that to begin with I was like, okay, I'll try, but I actually loved it by the end, and it really did unleash some stuff that I didn't know I had available to me that I've used since.
From the outside looking into the journey that then happened for you, you seem to sort of live the drama school dream that we all have of, like, you go to drama school, your talent is recognized immediately, and you're sort of propelled into amazing jobs and this great career. What was the reality of that for you?
Well, the reality was I spent 2 of the 3 years completely convinced that that everybody thought I was kind of quite good but quite boring, and, you know, it was like a sort of middle of the road performer. I don't know where, nobody ever said anything like that to me. I mean, I know where it came from, which was just my own insecurity, that I always sort of thought, yeah, I'm competent. Have I really got anything special to what, you know, there's this kind of obsession with being special, which is really unhelpful anyway, because it's like everyone's equally special and ordinary and so on. And so I really, in the 3rd year, I did try to just let go of that and sort of think about what we were doing there. But I did have the beginning of 3rd year dream where I got a fantastic part in the first play that was a real gift. And I got signed by a big agent who I'm still with now and felt great about. And then I was allowed to leave to do my first ever audition. And I went to see a casting director for a big series. And I did the scenes, and she looked at me and she took off her glasses and said, I don't think you trained for 3 years to do an audition like that. Oh. And everything in me just went, oh my God, it's true. I was like, everything I've worried about is actually true. I'm not good enough to do this. And she was being totally unfair, obviously, and like super rude. It was one of those moments where the walls just kind of fell in around me, and I thought, right, this agent's going to drop me, and I'm never going to go to an audition again. And I told my agent about it, and they were so nice and supportive, and were just like, it's your first audition, what, you know, and it's your first audition on for screen ever. And again, drama schools didn't do as much then about screen, so I was just so rookie. So of course it wasn't brilliant, and of course I didn't get it. And I did sort of probably 3 or 4 more really dodgy screen auditions over the next few months, and then they started to get a little bit better. And then I got a job at the Almeida. So it was, it would have been nice if there was a happy ending at that point where it was like, and then I did an amazing TV audition. I got a brilliant TV job, but I didn't. Not for a while, at least.
It just kind of encapsulates everything I think I'm trying to figure out with this thing that I'm making. What you're seeing is again like someone's highlight reel. It's not.
Of course, yeah. All those terrible auditions. I did one once where I was sitting outside the waiting room and I opened the email just to double check what they'd said about the character notes. And as I opened the email, I saw that there were in fact 3 documents attached, and there was one massive scene that I hadn't ever seen before. So that was pretty bad. I also did one where I had food poisoning and I left the audition room, and luckily there was a bathroom right opposite, and I just walked through the bathroom, vomited absolutely everywhere. So that was great. Yes, but yeah, in terms of like actual bad ones, definitely before awareness was raised around intimacy, direction, and what's appropriate to ask an actor in audition. I've done 3 chemistry reads where I was expected to kiss the other actor with no kind of, not even with any discussion, just it was in the scene, and we were looking at each other through the scene, both thinking, and I could see the other actor thinking the same thing of, if we don't do the kiss, do we look like we're not committed to the part? But also we don't even know each other's names. What's going on? We're doing it.
Oh my God.
And obviously doing like the least chemistry filled scene and kiss ever, because it was all we were thinking about.
Yeah.
But luckily now we know that that's not okay to be asked to do it. And nobody has asked for that for some time. So I think the industry has become aware as well.
And how interesting that now, especially now, I feel like post-COVID, that's going to be.
Exactly. Like I think that's probably done quite a lot for intimacy, direction and stuff, that we've become aware in general of what it means to touch somebody or be very close to somebody.
Did you graduate early then to do Children at the Almeida?
So I left early in what you feel like is a blaze of glory, being like, bye guys, I'm off to the Almeida. And it was unbelievably exciting. I loved that play. I had the best time doing it. And then it finished, and then I kind of fell off the cliff that drama school students do at some point, unless you're one of the few people who really do just take off and that's it, and you go job to job to job. But suddenly I had, which is not even a long time in the grand scheme of things now, but I had kind of 5 months where after that play where I didn't have another job. As I say, that now I can see that's a tiny amount of time to not work for.
When you don't see an end to it, that's the terrible.
No, you don't. Exactly. And also I'd just done 3 years at drama school where somebody was telling me what to do all day, every day, and keeping me creatively stimulated. And then suddenly I was in that kind of abyss where nobody cared what time I got out of bed, and nobody kind of giving you any creative stimulation or well, you suddenly have to find it for yourself, basically, which took at least 3 months of me to get my mind around. I had a great conversation with my agent around that time where they just said, just make sure you read the newspapers and go to galleries and use all the free stuff in London that helps you stay creative. You don't have to be actively learning accents or whatever, just do some stuff that's creatively nourishing. And I started doing that, and it really helped. But it didn't solve how much I wanted and needed a job.
Yeah.
And also I was in, massive debt, having done a second degree and that kind of thing. And then, the White Queen came along sort of just as I was beginning to feel like, can I cope with this anymore? I must earn some more money than I can earn in part-time work. And it just sort of came along at the right time. And there was nothing about it that was any different to any, I'd been up for loads of different things that I thought, that audition had gone really well, and I haven't heard yet. And I auditioned for the White Queen. I didn't hear anything for 6 weeks, so I assumed it had gone away. And then suddenly I got the call saying they really like to audition, and it starts in like 2 weeks' time.
6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it was on offer to somebody else. If it takes that long, that's always I always assume that anyway. With any job I've ever done, I'm always like, I assume it's been offered to somebody else. I don't care. I'll take it if they offer it to me next.
Yeah. How do you cope with those auditions that when you don't hear back or when it takes forever? Like, do you have a way?
Well, no, to be honest, it's something I still think is really awful. Whenever I talk to other people in other professions who apply for jobs, when they hear that we don't get told either way unless we get it, a lot of the time they just honestly can't believe it. And I do understand it's because of the number of people that casting directors have to see and things. So it's not a kind of, I'm not rinsing casting directors for the situation. It's sort of a cultural thing that needs to change, and production needs to make sure that there's budget for a casting assistant to sit there and send those emails. Like, you can't expect someone to do it for free at the weekend. It needs to be part of the budget. If I haven't heard for a couple of weeks and I ask my agent and there's no feedback, then I have to kind of go, okay, I didn't get it in my head.
Yeah.
I just have to at some point try and shut the door a little bit on it.
And I think that's sort of the paradox of being a performer as well, right? Is that you've got to be so emotionally available and so sensitive to a lot of stuff, but then so resilient to take this kind of other side to it, which is,
it's really tough. And I think, again, that's where the kind of not over celebrating is helpful, that it's like just keeping everything as in a kind of middle position if possible.
And I guess that's as well, like, trying not to identify yourself solely on that, but cultivating your life outside of it.
Massively. And again, I think straight after drama school, that's quite hard, because all your friends are the people you were at drama school with, and you're so much, when you're graduating, in that world of who's doing what and who's been signed by who, and it takes a little while to let go of that. It is important when you're graduating, but it becomes less and less important. Other people's journeys become less important. You really start to see how someone else's success is not your failure and does not deny you something. Someone described it to me, I think it was my agent or one of the assistants at my agent, said, you're sort of made up of these different pillars, and only one of them is acting. Like, there's family and there's other things that you're interested in, your other hobbies, whether it's cooking or exercise or seeing your friends. And I think particularly at the moment, we're all being denied quite a lot of the things that keep us sane. So cultivating ones that you can just do at home is great, and also financially cultivating things that don't cost anything. I did Couch to 5K recently.
That's what I did.
I really enjoyed it, again, because it had a sort of goal. It was nice to have like a gentle goal to work towards. Anything like that, anything to widen to strengthen your other pillars. Then when you don't get that phone call that you're hoping for, you've got other things that will sort of remind you of who you inherently are and the things that matter to you.
I know I don't have you for too much longer, so I've got so many questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
You joined the cast of 24. I read somewhere that your character originally was in 2 episodes, but then they extended it to 7. Is that right?
Well, yes. They wrote it as we were filming it, and actually they didn't write they didn't finalize the script for the final episodes until the first episode had already been on TV. So it was like a really quick turnaround.
Wow.
And so they could only sort of book you for a certain number of episodes at a time. So I assumed I was just in 2 episodes because that's what I'd been booked for. And then the next script comes through and you're like, oh, I'm still alive. Okay. And that's like the only way that characters leave 24 is by dying. So every script that arrived, I was like, okay, I'm still alive in this one. And and then finally the one comes where you're like, oh no, I die in this one. Okay.
How was that, being on set in such an iconic show with Jack Bauer himself?
It was brilliant. I think because of the speed at which it's made and filmed, the feel of filming it is similar to the feel of watching it, because it's all at such a pace.
Wow.
It was really exhilarating, and quite a long shoot all over London. There were days where we had the whole of Trafalgar Square blocked off, and I was running around pretend to be hit by buses, and it really was like exactly what I would have hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the first day though, I was running. I was doing a scene where I was running away from Jack Bauer, and I was like, I can't believe I'm running away from Jack Bauer in these huge heels, and I tripped and head butted a brick wall. And it was as I sort of slumped to the floor, I thought, this is not what I hoped for. I thought this was going to be really cool. And once I had recovered and had been checked over by the medic, the director was like, okay, I'm so glad you're okay. Would you like to see the footage?
Before we put it online.
It was amazing just seeing me running away at full pelt from Jack Bauer and then sort of tripping over my own feet and headbutting a wall. So I hope that exists somewhere on some kind of blooper reel. I don't know.
That's what struck me about Humans as well, is that it was so action-packed. That was an amazing show, and what a brilliant character.
I don't think I've ever loved filming anything that much. It was wonderful to be part of the birth of something so very different to joining a show that you know and love, but part of creating a world that then became so loved was just really rewarding. So it's this sort of idea that yes, robots have been created for all sorts of reasons, but one of them being as prostitutes. And sort of, I guess, as initial look at what human beings are willing to do if they don't see something as human, which can be applied to how we also treat humans. But she is one of a very small number of synths who can think and feel. And then it's kind of her journey from there. But yeah, I thought that she was so well written, and it was wonderful playing a character that's complex, that's neither clearly a hero or a villain, or she was a very sort of, she did things that were very questionable, but also I hope you could feel compassion for her and understand why she might do the things she was doing.
And so when Humans came to an end, did you make a conscious effort to go back into theatre, or was that something that had run alongside your TV work in the meantime?
So I did say to my agent, I'd love to do a play, because I'm feeling kind of out of touch with that skill set and working live, and so I did make a conscious effort to be like, I'd really love to do a play. But you can say that stuff, but who knows what will come along. And
then so I came to see you in I don't know how you pronounce this, Mackinac, and you played Helen in that, which is who the play is all centered around. That was extraordinary, but it looked completely exhausting.
Yeah, it was actually, and it was a good example for me of like, what can you give of yourself. It was the first time I'd done something so rigorous and so traumatizing in terms of material, and I was constantly trying to again walk that line of like, how do I not become very sad while working on this play, thinking about something that's so difficult.
When I came to watch it, I was going on a date straight after, and I don't think I've ever been so angry.
Absolutely terrible pre-date material. I got engaged during the rehearsals, and I came in and I was like, I just got engaged, and everyone was like, wow, congratulations, what a strange play to be rehearsing, which is basically all about how marriage is like the ultimate kind of patriarchal institution that crushes women.
What are you hoping for next?
I would really like to develop some of my own work, and I'm sort of in the process of learning about doing that. It's something I've always said and thought, but never actually jumped the hurdle of like, but how do you begin? So I'm now trying to get myself to begin. It's been a great part of lockdown, actually, just going, okay, well, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe just try and write some stuff and nobody will ever see it, and you'll just enjoy the process of doing it. And that's been a really good way to start. And then to go, right, how do I get people to read it? Even just to give me some feedback. And who do I know that I could send it to, or who do I not know that I could send it to? And but whether it becomes something or not, I want to challenge myself to actually finish it, to have something that, even if all I ever do is open up my laptop and go, I wrote a bit of that, that would be, that would be better than not doing it.
Do you have any kind of advice for people just starting out? Or is there anything that you wish you'd been told?
I think this sounds sort of counterintuitive, and not everybody would find this useful. But when things have felt really tough, I found it very helpful to remind myself that there is not a gun to my head and I don't have to keep doing this job. Hopefully that can just then reinforce the reasons why you do want to do it. So it's not like I don't see it as a defeatist attitude at all. It's a like, okay, what's the hook that's going to get me to get back on the horse and go, I'm doing another audition tomorrow and I'm getting back and writing something or whatever. And I think particularly after drama school, I had that real sense of, you've worked so hard to get to that point of your career beginning that it's just unthinkable for it not to work out. So you spend a lot of time like measuring whether it's working out or not, which is a totally exhausting and pointless exercise anyway. All you need to do is just kind of stay in the game and see what happens from there. And if the game is ever too much, you can step out and do something else for a while and then come back to it or whatever. And it helps me remember when things are tough that there are so many great things about being an actor as well, that, actors are wonderful people and you've got this amazing community and there are so many people that understand what you're going through at any one time. And that was something that my friend Nikesh Patel, who's a really great actor, he told me after I graduated. And I said, I'm finding it a bit hard, when things are a bit tough. And he said, it's really important that you're honest with people when it's tough, because 9 times out of 10, they will go, oh my God, I feel exactly the same. Whereas if we all go out there being like, oh no, actually, there's a few exciting things in the pipeline, I can't talk about it. That doesn't help anybody. And it makes me feel like awful myself. I'd rather just say, I didn't get this massive job the other day and I'm a bit gutted about it, and then to also have conversations where you remind each other kind of what you do love about it. Like when it's good, it's so good, and that's why we bother to stay.
Yeah, definitely. Emily Berrington, thank you so much for your time.
So lovely.
So nice to see you.
So nice to see you. I've really enjoyed it.
So that was the lovely Emily Berrington. Tune in next time when I will be speaking with acting royalty. He's a national treasure. He's worked on stage and screen across the globe and is everyone's favourite Bel Air butler. It is, of course, the wonderful Joseph Marcel. In the meantime, please do subscribe and share us with a friend. This podcast was recorded, edited and produced by me, Victoria Blunt, with music from the musical genius Joey Hickman. Thanks to Emma Fawcett, Alistair MacDonald and Alan Stanley Harrison.